All right, if you guys remember, in the most recent videos I did, I was pointing you guys to Christmas and Hanukkah, and I've been pointing to both of those for a while. Now, it appeared, and I honestly was a little bit in a state of confusion, as a lot of us watchmen were, when Hanukkah passed and when Christmas passed. And I thought to myself, I said, you know, the evidence was so strong, I can't believe I missed on Christmas and Hanukkah, especially on Christmas because of all the symbolism and everything like that. But then the Lord showed me something. Did I miss? Watch this. All right. And this, again, this is crucial to the understanding. This is going to take me several videos to break this down for you guys, but you're going to completely understand this and you'll know what is about to take place. And now is the time for it to take place. Let's start on top here. Watch this. For those, you can go back and get a detailed explanation in my previous videos, in my recent videos, but I'll quickly explain here what I'm showing. I'm going to go through it real fast. I'm not going to take long with this because you can go back and watch the video if you want a detailed explanation. The whole symbolism of Christmas comes from Sol Invictus and a Roman festival called Dies Natalis Solis Invicti. And what it is it is called the rebirth of the unconquered sun. All right. And it comes from the fact that the ancient religions, many of them going way back to ancient Egypt, like many of the ancient religions, Babylon, they believed that, because they all worship the sun god, this is Tammuz, Mithra, Horus, you know what I mean? All of them. I mean, it's all the sun gods. They all have the same birthday when you look it up. It's always December 25th. The belief was that because on the winter solstice every year, the word solstice means sun stands still. So they noticed that on the winter solstice, which always occurred on December 21st or 22nd, and this year in 2019, it was the 22nd, but they noticed that the sun appeared to stop moving from the spot that it was in. And this is because it remains for 3 days on the same, I think it's latitudinal lines or something like that. I'm not an astronomer. I'm not even going to pretend to be, but it's the truth though. It stays in the same place for 3 days. So that's where we get the word solstice from, which means it has to do with Latin, and it means sun stands still. That happens, of course, on the summer solstice and also on the winter solstice. But they noticed that on the winter solstice, it appeared as if to them the sun had died. So they thought their sun god died on that day because the sun stopped moving. So it was as if the sun had been, the heat and light of the sun that had been killed by the cold and darkness of winter. Then they noticed that 3 days later, which would take you to the morning of December 25th, right in the evening of the 24th to the morning of the 25th, Christmas, that it began to move again. And it started to come back towards the earth. So it was like the powers of light and warmth of the sun prevailed over the cold and darkness. The sun was returning back to the earth again. So it was like it was resurrected. It came back to life after 3 days. Now we know God put this in place to represent Jesus. And of course, that's why it's called the sun, S-U-N, because it represents his S-O-N, son, Jesus. And the fact that he would die and come back in 3 days. But of course, Satan twists everything and idolizes everything. That's why the Catholic Church and all the ancient religions and the religions now, they worship the sun god. Satan makes it into an idol pointing to his son, the Antichrist. So I thought this was literally pointing to Obama's death and resurrection of literally 3 days. And I still believe it's going to be that. I still believe, as I told you, he's going to be shot in the head. And they're going to tell you that he is either dead or in a coma for 3 days, and then he's going to come back to life. And that'll be literally 3 days. But what the Lord showed me is, look at this as years. And remember, we're dealing with the sun. The sun is what measures years. See, when you understand its years, that brings you to the understanding of this. And so we'll go down here. Watch this. Okay. The solstice and the fact that the sun stops moving and then appears to resurrect 3 days or years later points to this right here. See, on January 20th, 2017, Barack Obama received a political head wound. His power was taken from him. He was removed from power. He received a political head wound to put Trump back in power. Or I'm sorry, to put Trump in power for the first time. It was the inauguration of Donald Trump. Okay, so he was put into power, and Obama's power was removed. It was a political head wound. All right. Exactly 3 years later brings you to January 20th of 2020, just about 2 weeks from now, representing the sun rising again. See, this was his political death. And remember, as you see here, Obama, his campaign logo is the rising sun. It's the rising sun. Not only that, but you can go look at Jonathan Kleck's videos for this. His mother, Stanley Ann Dunham, was a part of a cult. I can't remember. I think it was in Indonesia called the Sabarka or something like that, and it was about the rising sun. But all the symbolism of the false god worship is the rising sun. So you see a resurrection after 3 days, as in 3 years of being dead. So his time of 3 years that he had to be gone was from January 20th, 2017, and it will end. He's free to come back, like he's free from his prison, his perdition, as of January 20th, 2020. Now, because here's the thing you got to understand. Remember I told you, and see, there was some of us who thought that even though Trump got elected, he won the election in 2016, we thought Obama would never leave office, that Satan would orchestrate events that he would never leave office. And we were confused when he actually did leave office. But the Lord gave us the understanding of the 7 kings, and that Obama was king number 6 from Revelation 17. Trump is king number 7, who must continue only a short space, only a short time, meaning he will not even get the minimum that one of these kings and their presidents, their 7 presidents of the United States, going back to Jimmy Carter, the minimum amount of time they could serve as king is 4 years. So it was saying that the 7th king, Trump, would not even get the full 4 years. Okay, his time is going to be cut short. He's only going to have 3 years. And then the 6th king, Obama, will become the 8th king. It's a new beginning. You see, a resurrection. 8 is the number of new beginning. See, Trump is 7. 7 is completion. And then 8 is new beginning. A new beginning. Because it's not going to be a presidency for Obama like how it was for he and the other 6 kings. It's going to be a new beginning as ruler of the whole world, being worshipped as the sun god, resurrected from the dead. See, this is a political head wound in which he's gone for 3 years. And he will suffer a literal head wound and be gone for 3 days. Satan always has to mimic Christ. All right. Now, we know that the crucifixion event is coming up soon, which will be the head wound when Obama is shot. So where can we find foreshadowing to show us that this is true? I'm going to give you a couple right here real quick. And then I'm going to go into more and more videos, because like I said, this is going to take several videos, but you understand from this where we're going with this. All right. Remember that when Jesus hung on the cross, before he died, Jesus died at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. But from 12 noon to 3 p.m., there was darkness. The Bible says there was darkness from the 6th hour to the 9th hour. So there was 3 hours of darkness before the crucifixion event. So there you see the symbolism of 3 years of darkness before the Antichrist will receive his crucifixion, his head wound. Now, not darkness for us, because we were glad to get rid of him. Darkness for the world who loves him and worships him, and you see how they've been screaming for him to come back. All right. So you saw the symbolism of the 3 hours of darkness of Jesus being on the cross right before he took his last breath, right at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But also the Lord told me to look at the 10 plagues. And what we saw was that for years, going all the way back even before Obama, you can go look up these events. You can just Google them and look them up. We saw the plagues play out in different areas of the world. Now, America is Egypt, but the whole world is really Egypt. You know what I mean? America is maybe the closest representation of what Egypt was. And it's on our money, of course, the symbolism of the pyramid and everything like that, the all-seeing eye. But again, Egypt really represents the whole world. So for years, you saw these plagues, just like the 10 plagues of Egypt, playing out all over the world. You saw locusts, you saw water being turned into blood, boils breaking out on people. You saw these things happen. But what was the 9th plague? Right before the 10th plague, which was the death of the firstborn, where the Jews, all the Israelites had to put the lamb's blood on the doorpost. What was the 9th plague? It was 3 days of darkness. So 3 days of darkness came upon the Egyptians, the ungodly people, you see? The Jews, God's people, had light, representing that we were not suffering through this 3 years. We were happy because he was gone, Obama. But the Egyptians, representing the world, the unsaved world, was in a state of confusion and darkness for the 3 days or 3 years, the 9th plague. You understand? You see? And I'll go into more detail and explain this in more videos. And I'm going to keep this going. I'm going to do as many as I can today and then do some tomorrow. But that's your 3 days of darkness. That's why in the last few years, you've been hearing so many watchmen who have prophesied and said that the Lord has spoken to them about 3 days of darkness. And they couldn't really put their finger on why they were seeing that, why the Lord was showing them that. There's your answer right there. It's the 3 years that the world, Egypt, has been in darkness without their savior, their light. Because remember, what is Satan's name? Lucifer, the light bearer. So he believes he is the light bearer. That's his name. He carries the light. So likewise, his son would be the light. So that's the light for them, the rising sun for the ungodly world, Barack Obama. All right. Pointing to, the symbolism of the Statue of Liberty, which is key. I'm going to get into that and explain that. Carrying a torch. They believe that they have the light. They are illuminated, right? That's what they call themselves, Illuminati. So their light has been gone. They've been in darkness and confusion for these 3 years. That 3 years will come to an end in about 2 more weeks on the 20th. And then he can rise again, pointing to his resurrection happening sometime either on or after this day. And that leads us to January 24th. But I'm going to show you more of the events that are going to take place. But it was key for me to understand this and realize that I did not miss about Christmas. It's just that I thought they were pointing to a literal time frame that would end on Christmas and the sun god, the false god, would return on Christmas. No, they were pointing to the symbolism of him standing still, solstice, his death, and then returning after 3 years being gone. The rising sun coming back, just like his campaign logo. It's the second coming of the sun god, Barack Obama. And it's about to happen. See, he had to go away after his first coming to come back later on and be worshipped as God, a false god, in his second coming. And that's why it's happening in 2020, the year of perfect vision. See, all eyes will see the truth. Remember, it says that wicked shall be revealed. Everyone shall see the truth. Just like when Jesus comes in remember, at Jesus' first coming, there was confusion as to who he was. Some believed he was a Messiah. Many said, no, he's a liar. You know what I mean? We need to get rid of him and everything like that. Just like Obama's first coming. There was confusion and not knowing his purpose and or where he stood or where his heart was. But in his second coming, all eyes will see the truth. 2020. Because even though people will make the mistake of trusting him at first, in this year of 2020, everyone who put their trust in him, their eyes will be opened to realize that they made a mistake. And those who turned from the true Messiah, Jesus, their eyes will also be opened to realize that they made a mistake. You got it? All right, we'll move on to the next one.